Hello, welcome back to the channel. Glad you're here. Today we have a Daiwa 9700A. It's a vintage reel, has the star wheel drag. I'm not real sure on the year on this, when it was made. I really having trouble finding information out on some of this stuff. Pretty decent reel. It's definitely got some scrapes and bangs from over the years. Not bad shape at all. I'm going to take this apart, clean it up, get all the old grease and the grime off of it. You can see all the grime down in there. There's probably quite a bit inside also. Get it lubricated up and get this thing back on the water. These are great old reels. These will really hold up well. Now I'm going to guess this is probably from the 70s, maybe a little bit older, maybe the 80s. I'm not real sure. But it's lasted that long, 40 years, so I'm sure it'll last another 40 if we get this thing serviced. It seems to work real well. The spins, the trigger works. A little bit of noise in there, a little bit of gear noise. May be somewhere, may just be from being dry. Alright, well, let's get into this. So first, I'm going to start by taking the nose off. That's usually where I like to start on the spincast reels. Get the nose off, I get the rotor off, and get the spool off there. So, yep, you can see there's quite a bit of dirt down in here. We want to get all that out of there. That's our goal. Take that nut off. It spins right off there nice. It wasn't overly tight. Put that in the parts tray, pop the rotor off. You want to always watch for washers, spacers, that kind of thing. You don't want to lose anything. That's the line catch pin right there. It seems to be moving free. We'll get a little lubricant on that once we get this all cleaned up. This outer black ring, you can actually take it off. You can rotate it a little bit, and that will pop right off there so you can get all that grease and grime out of there. Let's stuff that all over there. Ooh, this has a nice brass piece in here. Usually these are plastic on a lot of these reels. Not necessarily Daiwa, but definitely Zebco and Shimano. That's interesting. I have not seen that yet. Let me get this E-clip off of here. Don't want to lose that. Sometimes them like to go flying, and when they do that, they're hard to find. This thing's got about, I believe that's a 10-pound line on it, which is about right for this size reel. Let's get the spool off of here. And not too bad. There's a little bit of grime into there, but we'll get that out of there. It actually rides free on the shaft. So there's a pin here that this will go into just for future reference. That has to be in there for the spool to sit down correctly and to keep the spool from spinning when you're using it. So it locks it right into place. The drag is actually with the shaft here that runs the rotor. So when you push the button, that will push right out. This piece here, the back side of the rotor, how it is in right now, it will be up onto here. You can see that groove there. What happens is that rides there, and when you turn the handle, it goes from this down onto here, and it pushes that pin out to catch the line, and also lets the rotor drop down onto the spool. See that little pin sticks out there. That pin will ride down here once the rotor is in place. Alright, now I'm going to take these screws out of the side here and see what's in here. Always want to try to use a good screwdriver and the right size screwdriver. You don't want to mess up the groove that these have. Make it hard to get them screws out in the future if you do. These screws are nice and free. They're not all corroded in there and everything. That top screw also holds the button in place. You want to pay attention to that. I'm holding the button in with my finger just so I can pull this cover off. Make sure there's no pieces that are going to fall out that I'm not going to know where they go because they fell out beforehand. So get this screw here out. if you notice, this is a short screw and the other one was quite long because it goes through that handle or that button. Now this side cover should come right off of here. Yep, it's not a problem. Not too bad down in there. It's fairly clean. Put that, oops, wrong tray. I like to keep the external parts in the external tray and the internal in the internal tray. So, okay, there's nothing there that's going to fall out. It just like the other ones, that rides right on that and pushes right on that for casting. Okay, so we'll bring that shaft out. Should push right out, I believe. Yeah, just gotta work it out. Or does this come off of there? I'm not real sure. I've not had one of these apart before. It almost looks like that brass piece should come off of there. I want to grab it with the pliers and screw it up, so let's take a look here and see. Oh yeah. This silver piece here is preventing it. The gear can't go past that. So that has to come off there somehow. So I am thinking, let's see how, let's pull this screw out here. I'll get a different screwdriver for that one. That screw's already messed up. We'll get that. Oh, it's not coming. There, no. Let's maybe spin the drag wheel back, see if that helps take the pressure off it, and we'll try again. Boy, that could mess things right up for me. And get a little bit of lubricant down in there, a little bit of penetrating oil. That may help to free it up. Seems like it's stuck down in there, which is not good. Not good at all. Now with that drag, that is giving me a little bit of play there. It's still not going to let it come past it. So I'm thinking this piece here has to come off. So I'm going to grab, really hate to grab a hold of that. Mar it all up. That's a nice piece. Yeah, that's going to have to, because there's no way that's coming out. Because that's part of that shaft. That has to come out after this gear. So that has to come off there. Grab a little different pair of pliers, and I'm going to use my green scrubby as kind of a buffer to keep from tearing that up. Open this up, grab a hold of that. Not moving. No, that is not moving. Maybe it's got to come off there. Get something to make grip it just a little bit better. Say I don't want to scar that all up. It will not let that spool ride very good if I do. We can clean it up, but brass is a soft metal, so I don't want to damage it. Nope, that has a reverse thread on it actually. It just popped loose, so now we can spin this piece off of here. That'll make it easier for cleaning, and my gear fell right out. See? Worked out real well. Now I got to get this screw out so I can get that shaft out. If I cannot do that, I may just have to lubricate it with some oil and leave it, because I'm not gonna, I don't want to break that screw either. So I'm going to spin that down just a little bit, and we'll see if we can get that to come out. And give her another attempt here. Let me try a different screwdriver here. Nope, that is not going to come out of there. So we're just going to leave that. I can work around it. I can get some Q-tips down there, clean that stuff out. Just moves pretty freely. I can get some 3-in-1 oil or penetrating oil down into there and get it worked into there real easily. So rather than risk damaging it, having to drill that out and try to get the broken piece out, I'm just going to leave it alone. And we'll continue on from there. Like I said, I'm going to get me some Q-tips here. Get down in here and get as much of this stuff out of here as you can from behind it. It's fairly clean down in there. There is definitely some gunk, but not much. And the gear is really clean. It does not have a lot of buildup at all in it. These Q-tips get right down in there and work them down in there pretty good. And okay, get all that. Let's try to get some of this here out of here. Kind of bums me out I can't get that screw out of there, but I don't want to risk damaging anything, so we will just pretend like I didn't see that, I guess. Here we go. Get all this dirt and grime all out of here. Here, looking pretty good actually, getting all that out of there. Clean that rail right up. We want to make sure we get it all out in here. There's not a lot down in here, but definitely some. Get a bigger piece of paper towel here if I can. Not sure what it did with it. I'll get a new one. Paper towel works real well for cleaning this stuff out, dispose of. You don't have to worry about washing them. And my luck, I'd throw a regular rag in the wash and have a bunch of grease on it and get all over my clothes and everything. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Got that all cleaned up. Sorry if I go off a frame here. My camera doesn't have a real wide angle. I'm trying to remember to stay closer to it so it can be seen. I'm gonna upgrade my camera. Just getting started on this, so it'll take me a little bit of time. I'm taking clean this up so it did not scar that up at all with that and pliers. It putting that piece of green scrubby on there helped a lot. That helps get a little bit of bite too. I'll polish it just a little bit here. Piece of emery. You don't want to do it all very much at all, because brass is a very soft metal. You'll take off a lot. Just want to clean it up, make it look all nice and shiny, and get all the grease out of it. And get my little tiny orifice brushes here. Oh, that's going to be a little bit too small, so we'll get a bigger one. Let's see about this one here. These also come from Harbor Freight. Work real well. This is a brass, so it don't hurt the steel or anything. You just want to be gentle on brass pieces. Just run it in there a few times. Make sure you get all the corrosion and everything out of there. And that looks pretty good. Hand that back up. Okay, put that back in the tree. Get this rotor cleaned up. Like I said, I took that rubber ring off here, so I get all that old grease out and get this cleaned up real good. Use my green kitchen scrubby. This one's getting pretty tore up, but it's not real abrasive. It works real good, well for getting off the grease without scratching the surface up. As you can see, it's pretty clean now, nice and smooth. there. Clean the inside. Okay, I'm gonna, so I don't forget it when reassembling, I'll put a little bit of lubricant in here, just so that that gets well lubed. I like to work it to get that lubricant down into there. See, that's really working free now. It was a little bit sticky earlier, now it's nice. I like to put just a touch on that spring too. It don't hurt to lubricate that. Makes it less friction. Okay, that's pretty good. So we'll put that back over there. Let's put that rubber ring back on. It's real simple. You can see it bigger slot and then the smaller slot. So you'll start in the bigger slot and rotate it to get them all the pins in the holes. Then just rotate it. And you can see on the back side where they're at. They're all seated properly. Set that down. Get this shaft out. We'll clean this guy up. I like to use my hard plastic brush to get all this stuff out. You can see there's some stuff down into those gears on this one, into the teeth on the gear. I'll put just a little bit penetrating oil. That works real well for cleaning. Don't need a lot. I like to put it on here too, get that stuff broke free in there under that spring. I don't like to take that spring off. That can be kind of a pain to get back on. Yeah, kind of a pain to get off too. So let's clean that grease all out. Oh yeah, let's clean up real nice. You can see that brass real good now. Okay, I'll clean out down here in this spring, get it all cleared out. Make sure there's nothing in them gears. Okay, I'm going to take my green scrubby and kind of polish this upper part here a little bit. Nah, I don't need a lot of cleaning, just a little bit. Make sure there's no grease and grime on it. I like to take and bring that down, the gear down, and get down in there where that rides. And take the paper towel to get all the grit and grime out of there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, let's set that back over there. This spool doesn't really have any corrosion on the inside, so I'm not going to take that line off there right now. I'll be able to clean this up. It's not bad at all. So just a little bit of penetrating oil on it. Get my green scrubby and get this cleaned up. Make sure you get down into that hole where it rides on that brass piece there. Get that all cleaned out of there and hit the back side here real well. See, this was fairly clean, this spool. This paper towel, get all the grit and grime off of it. And as much as clean as you can get it. That way it'll work nice. Okay. Got a couple more minor pieces here to get cleaned up. I get this side cover. Back side of it's fairly decent, but the front side's got some stuff on it, so we'll clean that all up. That's pretty good. Hit this side lightly, don't want to scratch the paint up or nothing. Some of these reels that are really beat up and got a lot of nicks in them, I will disassemble them, take the badges off of them and everything, and repaint them, make them look like new again. Okay, that's pretty clean. And get this nose cone cleaned up. Let's get that years of grime out of there. Just a little bit of oil down in there and hit it with the green scrubby, get it all broke loose real well. Okay, and I'm going to do the outside. Okay, wipe that all off. Apologize if I go out of frame again, you know, small area to work in here. Trying to stay in the sight of the camera. Whoops. Okay. Everything's pretty well cleaned up. I'm going to get my tools out of the way. Oh, got the trigger to clean up. Get my tools out of the way here, wipe my table off so I don't put any of that grime back in there. Let's get this trigger cleaned up first. And get down in these corners and everything with a Q-tip real good. Get as much of that off so this is free as possible and not binding at all. There's a brass sleeve in there that screw goes through that the button actually rides on. And get that out. I want to make sure to get that cleaned up. And you see there's definitely a little bit of wear from the years of use, but that's not a problem. This brass, I'm going to see if I got a small enough orifice brush here to go in there. I'm pretty sure I do. Just make sure there's nothing in there it's going to bind up on. These are plastic brushes, so I'm not going to damage the brass. I don't like to use stainless steel on brass. Brass on brass is alright because it's the same hardness. Okay, let's get this back into here. Set that in my parts tray. Alright, let's get lubricating and reassembling here. Alright, I did not take that shaft out. Let's just get a little bit of lubricant down into it and we'll work it a little bit and make sure it's good and free. Put down into there, it'll work its way in there. Oh, it's already nice and free. Even further than it was. That's good. Tighten that drag down. Oh yeah, that's real nice. Also like these handles like to squeak or squeal. You hear a little bit of noise, not really a squeal, but let's lubricate right that pin down in there a little bit and work it. See, now it's nice and free. Before you could hear that little bit of a chatter. Clean that handle all up and get that all out of there. Alright, now what I need to do is put this shaft, I'm going to lubricate this, and then we'll put it in place and put that brass piece back in. Using Super Lube, it's a multi-purpose synthetic grease. It is rated for salt water. It is also food grade if you need to lubricate something in your kitchen, I guess. This is rated for 45 degrees below zero and 425 above zero, so before it has an issue. This stuff works real well. It does not gel up or get hard in cold weather. I imagine if you go to the 45 degrees below, it will freeze up, but if you're in that kind of temperatures, you got bigger problems than the grease. Pretty sure you're not out there fishing if you're in that kind of temperature. Used this stuff for years. It stays fairly soft and pliable. Lubricates real well. All right, I'm going to get some lubrication into this spring area here so that gear has nice lubrication to ride on that shaft. You can see on that. I'm going to hold that gear back and get some on the front side here also. Don't need much, just a little bit, little film on there. Makes sure it's nice and smooth. Sometimes I'll even put a drop of oil or two. Does not hurt. Yeah, that's nice and smooth. Okay, now I'm going to take and put some in the teeth of this gear. I like to fill these teeth up with it. There we are. And then I'll put a little film on this shaft here. Don't need a lot because when you push it into the part that it goes into, the grease is just going to wipe off if you have too much. So I'm going to set this. This piece goes back into here. That gear rides on that there. I'm going to hold that in place with this hand while I grab the brass. Need to lubricate the brass piece on the inside here. Just grab your Q-tip and run some grease down into there. Make sure it's well lubricated. I also like to put it on threads. That way they don't get bound up like that screw on the handle. Don't need a lot, just a nice film to protect it. I'm going to put some on the outside here just to protect this once I get it in place. I'm trying to handle it now, so it's not a good idea. And my fingers take most of the grease off. Looks like I can actually slip this into here. That spins real nice and free in there, moves real well. And I'll be able to put this in from this side. Remember, this was a left-hand thread, so instead of turning it right to tighten it, I need to turn it left. Okay, got that going back into place. Wipe that down so I can grab it and snug it back up. Put this on here again to protect the part. Just snug it up. You don't need it super tight. I'll wipe that grit from that green scrubby off there. Okay, I'll take my Q-tip, get some grease onto it. Grease this brass piece, keep it from corroding. It's a real nice brass piece. I really like the looks of that. That was a nice surprise to see when I opened up that reel. I put it up into here because that's where that plastic pin, the line catch pin rides. I'll probably add a little more when I get to putting that rotor on, but I'm taking just a little bit of grease on the inside here and also back on the back side. This does not rotate, it's more just to help prevent corrosion and such. Okay, this is the back side. It has that hole that needs to be lined up with that pin I showed you earlier. So this will just slide on and then just wiggle it back and forth. There it is. It went right into place. Now that exposes that groove that the E-clip rides on or goes in, so we'll get that. I like to start the E-clip into the groove, and then I will grab my screwdriver and gently push it in. You gotta be careful. If you slip off, this thing can go shooting across the room. You want to take your eye out. So let's push that into place. You can see that snapped in. It's seated all the way around. Got to make sure of that. You don't want that piece coming off. That'll ruin your day of fishing for sure. Okay. I'm going to put the rotor back on. I've already lubricated the catch pin. That's working rather well. Put just a touch more lubricant right onto here, just so it don't wear that piece. That plastic piece will wear before that brass. And I also lubricate the thread that nut goes on. This has a flat spot on this shaft, and the other side's all round. Where inside here you can see there's a flat spot that lines right up with that catch pin. The other side is all round. So you want to line that flat up with that one. And then the rotor should go on nicely. There it goes. Just had to wiggle it around a little bit. Now that catch pin, let me pull this off. This has this groove here. There's a high spot over here and a low spot. When you turn the handle, this shaft spins. Excuse me. And it will, this will slowly ride right off of this and be out here, which will hold it out so that it can catch the line. And that allows the rotor to drop down over top of the spool. So let's get that into place so that I can get my nut on. See, there we go. It's all the way down. The shaft is sticking out. I'll get my nut back into place here. Put that into place. And I grab my pliers and snug it up. Again, you don't need to over tighten it, just snug is all. Alright, now I'm gonna put the side cover on. Actually, I want to, before I forget, put just right in here. You can see the dot that rides on that. That is what pushes that. So you want to put just a little bit of lubricant on that so it don't wear. And I'm going to set that down there. I'm going to start this side cover on. I'm going to put the short screw in first, and then I'll work the long screw when I have the button in place. The short screw into the lower hole down here. That'll hold that cover in place to help make it easier to get that button and the other screw into place. The other screw, I'm going to put just a little bit of lubricant on it because it goes inside of that brass sleeve. I don't want to get ink corroded to it. Now I just snug that up. It didn't over tighten it. Now let's get my screw. I'll put just a little bit of grease onto it. This will also prevent that from freezing up in there or into the body. Okay, now this here, you can see that hole. We're going to line it up with those two holes. Start the bottom end first and then bring that right in. Kind of wiggle it around a little bit. And there we go. I felt it drop it, the screw drop into place in the other hole, so now I can tighten it up. There we are. You see, when you push the button, it pushes the rotor out. The rotor stays up onto that high spot, and you turn the handle, the rotor drops down where it should. Just working nice and smooth. The action's great. Let's get this all wiped down. Get this all cleaned up real well, and then we'll put the nose piece on. And then get this thing back out onto the water. Get it mounted on a rod. It already has 10, I believe it's 10-pound line on that. It looks to be in pretty good shape. It's not too nasty looking. I may end up changing the line out, but let's make sure this works real good on the lake first. Okay, I've already cleaned up the nose piece, so get this back onto here. You want to be careful not to cross thread. This is actually a metal nose. A lot of them are plastic. I really like the Daiwa reels. They seem to be well built, well thought out, and they last a long time. In my mind, these are one of the better reels. Shimano is real good also. Okay, that's on to there. I'll wipe that off. All right. Well, let's take that back off and look how the drag works. I didn't think about that. And we'll back the star drag all the way off. Okay, and crank the handle. This spool doesn't spin. Let's start putting a little bit of pressure on it. And seems to be working right. Now put a little more pressure on it. Yep, definitely getting harder to hold it. And we'll crank it right down. Nice and tight. Yep. I can't. It does not slip at all. Wow, that's a tight drag right there. Okay, I'm going to back that off. I like to leave them loose when I'm not using them. You just got to remember to tighten them up when I go to use it. Okay, a little bit of grease and oil come out of that shaft. That's going to happen. That oil flows. Get the nose piece back on. Okay, there's another vintage fishing reel I rescued from a garage sale. Get this thing mounted on a rod and get it out on the water back in service. This thing will last forever. I mean, this is really well built reels. It works as it should. Tighten that drag down a little more. There. Perfect. Nice and free and smooth. Yeah, that's real nice. Okay. I appreciate you watching the video. Thanks for coming back and watching another one of my videos. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Help me out. Get this channel going. If there's any reels you'd like to see get rebuilt, refurbished, leave it in the comments and I'll see if I can find that reel. I may have one, I may not. It might take me a while to find one, but I'll do my best, and we'll show you how to service it. All right, thanks again for watching, and have a good day.